as we come before you at the start of this meeting, we ask a special blessing be upon all those that are here and all those that are attending virtually, that we may be able to have the hearts of the people of West Haven at our grasp, and that we may be able to focus our attention on the needs of those citizens that are in this great city. Heavenly Father, we ask a special blessing also to be upon those in our nation that are suffering from natural disaster or the impending natural disasters that are coming. Bless those in the south, east, that they may be able to be watched over and protected. Bless those that are in harm's way, that they may be able to evacuate and get to safety. Heavenly Father, we ask a blessing to be upon the armed services and police force and first responders, that they may be watched over as well. And we ask and say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item number 3. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. First, the meeting from 8:28. We'll start with that one. Any corrections, omissions? I'm looking at you, Josh.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so no, any corrections?
Nope.
No changes?
No.
Okay, with that, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes from 8:28. All in favor?
I move to
Aye.
approve, oh, you
Oh,
have
yeah,
a
go ahead.
correction?
No.
Oh,
Sorry.
I would move to approve the minutes of August 28th.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right. All right, motion passes. Okay, in the second set of minutes from 9/11, go through those. Any changes to those minutes?
Not for me.
Good work, Robin.
2 in a row.
All right.
Go, Ron.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting on 9/11/2024.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, moving down to agenda item number 4. Amy, if you want to,
There,
anything to report?
no, because we didn't have meeting on September 25th? Was that the day
Right.
that, and so there was nothing that went to city council?
Oh, that's right.
We didn't have that second meeting in September.
All right, perfect. Okay, moving to agenda item number 5, amending the planning commission policies and procedures. There was just things, and should I have Garth come up and, did you want to explain anything on those? Or I think it's pretty self-explanatory in the
He's,
report.
actually, I was dealing with that, or did you want to deal with it?
However you'd like.
And by way of introduction, this is Garth Day. He is Amy's assistant. Amy is our interim
City planner.
city planner right now, and Garth is her assistant, so we appreciate his homework and knowledge.
This is a minor change, and it really centers around your procedures for petitions that come before the commission. You're a little, I wouldn't say out of order, but it's a little backwards from maybe a more efficient way to do it, which is to have the staff make presentations to the commission and then have the commission consider that and then allow the petitioner to respond and so forth. Just makes your meeting run a little bit smoother and you can get the information out in front of the discussions.
All right, thank you. You guys have any questions for Amy or Mr.
So I did notice that there was a mention of when we take a vote, are we gonna do more of a roll call style voting, or did that change?
Isn't it an option? Like, we can just do that if we are wondering about an agenda item?
Well, this was a request from Robin because she's having a hard time being able to identify who's voting. And so she asked if we could put something in here that, where you guys would start the chair would announce the result by identifying those members who voted in the affirmative and in the negative, so that she could be able to record
Yeah.
your votes.
Because I know city council, the mayor asks individual, is that the way that we're gonna, I mean,
Well,
I like the
he
roll call
asked-
idea.
He asked individually for different reasons.
Okay.
So, if it has to do with finances, that's a big reason why he'll ask individually.
Okay.
However, they've asked, staff, whoever's drafting the ordinance or the resolution, which is usually me, to make sure, and at the bottom of every resolution and at the bottom of every ordinance, to actually list out here's all the members. But because you guys don't do that, you don't have resolutions or ordinances, I mean, because you're making recommendations, we don't have that ability. And so
Okay.
it's a lot harder for Robin to tell.
So would it matter if we did the roll call style, or would that be the same thing as what we're doing, or?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It was just phrasing it in here to make it easier for Robin to be able to tell.
Yeah.
And be able to create an accurate record.
Okay.
It seems to me that it might be easier for the chair to just be able to do a roll call rather than repeating back.
Well, it's, you know,
6 of one, half dozen the other.
well, it actually gives both options, because it says the chair may also call for a roll call vote if they are unsure of the outcome.
So I guess it just all relies on the chair's ability to know who said
Who
Yep.
said
yay
what,
and nay.
when?
It's all up to Becky.
What do you want to do, Becky?
I like it.
Do we have to decide? We can still keep it as an option, right? We can
Yeah,
still
there-
Yeah,
continue
this
to do it
just
as we're
gives
doing.
either option.
So if there's something that kind of has a lot, maybe a little, some conflicts, or we might have some differing opinions, we could call for, we've done that before. where We've
we
asked
have.
for a roll call.
Yeah. So just, this gives you an option to do either one, but it's really so that Robin can put it in the minutes and be accurate. Evidently, you guys are all blending in with, she's nodding yes.
So if everybody's all in favor, that's pretty easy, right? Or,
It is the problem that I'm having is deciphering who's first and who's second. 'Cause
Yeah.
sometimes they'll come in at the same time,
yes.
and I'm not sure who it is.
So it helps her with more of the legalized who started the yay and then listing it off that.
So
for-
would it be
Made the
good if I say
motion.
we have a
Oh,
motion?
it's on motions, okay.
So if we have a motion by Commissioner Reed and a second by, and if, I'll just recap, and I'll decide if they both at the same time, I'll decide who gets to second.
That would be perfect.
Okay, because I notice that does happen.
I rewatch it, I have to watch people's lips.
So I don't, it's your fault because you put a document in front of me and you know what happens.
Are you gonna make me not want to like you anymore, Jeff? with
Well,
What you're gonna
it-
say next?
I didn't know you did. Is this something that we could revisit as a planning commission and talk about during a work session? There's some changes in here, like section 5 on the second page, under 2C. It makes reference to section 5.02 of the city zoning code. We changed all the or the city changed the numbering.
Actually, so you could say, let's just take out, so just say, let's see, the mayor's authorized in his or her sole discretion to grant an exception to the attendance policy for good cause shown, period. And then take out that according to section 5.02 of the city zone code.
That, or you could refer to Title III Administration, Chapter 32.02.
Or you could just
blah, blah, blah.
take it out.
Or, hey, I'm okay with that.
That's the easy fix.
I also had a question again, on page 2B, under preparation. We can visit a site or they can disclose our observations. Does that mean we can send photographs to each other? I mean, not with responses because of,
No, this is more you can talk about your observations rather than,
at the meeting.
well, yeah, you guys have done that before.
Right, no,
So you-
I get that. I was just wondering if sending a photograph of a location, because not everybody, some of us don't work and have too much time on their hands.
Could I add something to the kind of comments that Commission Member Reed is making? As I look at this ordinance, I agree completely with all of the changes that have been proposed. But I think this is a lengthy ordinance that has got a lot in it that could be streamlined. And I would kind of like to see, rather than piecemeal some of the changes that I believe are important changes, I'd kind of like to see us revisit the whole ordinance. I bet we could take it down from a 9-page document to a 5-page document and have it be more relevant to the needs of our citizens and our planning commission at this time. And I wonder if we could, rather than amend it, if we could make a plan to revisit the entire ordinance.
I would actually ask you to amend it at this time, and we could then bring it back and have that discussion. There's a lot of stuff in here that is necessary, but we can have the discussion of that, but I'm asking to have it amended right now so that, because frankly, what you're talking about is, may take some time. And really, these changes need to be made sooner rather than later when it comes to like, the deadline. You know, like the deadline should be 15 days instead of 14, just to give staff another day to be able to make sure that they've circulated it and how things are presented by the, by staff and how to proceed that way. And so I would ask you to amend it. And then, it's looking like next meeting, there's going to be maybe only one other item on the agenda. We could actually bring it back next meeting, and that would give you some time to maybe look at some stuff as to what you may want to change, but or reduce. But I would ask if you would amend it because of just making sure that we can get these things taken care of.
Yeah, like I said, I believe that all of these changes that you have proposed are very good and necessary changes. I just think there's other things in this ordinance that we're not doing. And I think that in general, we may already be out of compliance with some of the 9 pages of ordinance that are listed.
Yeah, I would agree with being out of compliance on several of these already, so.
But we can bring it back.
Yeah.
Like we can just have it as a discussion item for next
Right.
meeting. Because like I said, it's looking like there's gonna be just one item there might be two, but, it's a couple of conditional use permits for, a home occupation, for 2 different home occupation. So it's not gonna be lengthy.
No, I agree. I agree with Commissioner Galt. The changes are completely great.
It's not going to halt anything that we're going to be, if we want to go further. I think it just gets us more in that direction
Yeah.
to do what Amy's asking, so.
So what do you guys want to do? Do you want to table it, or do you want to?
No, I think.
Do these
I
changes
think-
tonight?
I think
and then-
I'm for amending it tonight.
Anybody other comments or
Yeah, I'm
concerns
good
about
with
doing that?
the changes, but I would really like to revisit this thing and try and cut it down from 9 pages of stuff that we don't do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in here that we don't do, so.
Well, I think along with some of the stuff that we don't do, for instance, in the reference to the training, that's all it says is the required training. And I'm not certain that the required training for planning commission members is documented anywhere. And I don't know if we want to make that documentation here in this policy and procedures or somewhere. But I really think stuff like that needs to be included. So here I am saying, well, maybe it needs to be longer in some places and shorter in other places. But I think we could capture some of the things, some of the requirements that would be more descriptive in this document. So I would vote for, let's take a good, strong look at this.
Okay, anything else?
I don't have
Okay.
anything.
Well, with that, I'll entertain a motion to amend the Planning Commission policies and procedures as written with the changes, the current changes.
I make a motion to amend the planning commission policies and procedures with the proposed changes.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hepworth and a second by Commissioner Reyna. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, any opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
And that was a nay. Is that you,
Commissioner
George?
Galt.
Commissioner Galt, nay? Okay. So we have, I have to count now, 1, 2. So 5 ayes and 1 nay by Commissioner Galt. Motion passes with that. So, is that helpful, Robin? Now I got to remember everybody's names. I'm going to stumble over. I'm going to have to turn the name tags. Yes, it is. It's good. Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, moving down to agenda item number 6, public hearing to consider a rezone, request to rezone parcel 0802800026 from A1 to R2.5. And according to our new policies and procedures, I'm going to turn the time over to Amy, or actually, Commissioner.
To Garth.
To Garth. Garth is going to go ahead and kind of give a little introduction to this rezone request before we have the public hearing.
This is a petition to rezone 5 acres, a little over 5 acres of property. On the map,
Excuse me, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Was the motion to recommend to council to, or was it to approve them? Because this is
Oh, going back to agenda
to
item number 5.
recommend to the council that they approve the changes.
I think we approved the changes. Do we need to recommend to council, Amy?
Well, the motion, I believe, was to recommend to the city council approval of the recommended changes.
Okay, I just wasn't sure that that's what you had in the wording, that's all. So,
Are we okay, Amy?
sorry.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 6. No, good. We're good.
do you put a map up here? The map of the petition?
Just the one in the packet.
Yeah, the one in the back. Okay. This shows the property. The petition is to rezone 5.02 acres from A1 to R2.5. A1 currently agriculture, and the 2.5 is a residential zone. As we've reviewed the application, we realize that the application, the current general plan shows the property as future rezone to C2, which would put the application inconsistent with the future land use of the area. And therefore, it's the staff's recommendation to deny the rezone based on the fact that it's not consistent with the general plan and the land use policies contained therein. I don't know if you want to talk about the change in the.
Yeah.
So you'll notice that this got amended on the website in your general plan. Inside the general plan, the map that's attached to it there is not the most current general plan map. So when I first did the review of this, it appeared that this was consistent with the land use policies. So as I prepared the memo, the original memo went out with a recommendation to approve. However, we were corrected and found the proper map, which brings us kind of to another issue that we have to correct online. So we identified that as that map needs to be in its proper location. When typically, if the commission votes to whatever your recommendation is to the city council, we recommend that you provide findings to go along with that. And the findings in this case would be that the petition is inconsistent with the general plan and the future land use of the city. If you have a different recommendation after the public hearing and your discussion, you'll also need to make those findings to justify why you're making that. So with that, and I apologize, my allergies are going crazy right now, so if I don't talk very well. So again, the staff's recommendation, which is consistent with the general plan, is to recommend denial of the rezone.
Thank you, Mr. Day. All right. I didn't ask if anybody had any other further questions for Garth. Anybody? Well,
Can I ask a question?
well, when we do the public hearing, we'll enter public hearing and then.
Who was this guy?
Oh, sorry, I thought I introduced him at the beginning. Garth Day, he is assistant to Amy. Amy is our interim city planner right now. So she's kind of taken on that dual role of our city attorney and city planner. And so they've hired Mr. Garth Day. He has specialty in this field and is her assistant, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're ready to enter public hearing. And when we enter public hearing, usually there's some directions as public hearing. Once we do enter public hearing, we ask that you come up to the microphone, introduce yourself with your name and address, be polite, and we have a 2-minute timer we can use if it's working. We just ask you to keep your comments to about 2 minutes, and you can each come up one at a time, and then at the end of the public hearing, we end public hearing, then we will have some discussion amongst ourselves, and that's the end of the public comments. So,
Well,
is that working?
and the other,
Your time's up.
nice. The other issue is we're not going to answer questions during the public
Correct.
Hearing.
Yeah, so we'll just take notes, we'll write down your questions or concerns. We want to hear from you, whether opposing or in favor of this change. We will take notes and then move from there. So with that, we're ready to enter public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. We enter public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Reyna to enter public hearing and a second by Commissioner Reed. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. So we are in public hearing. If one at a time you'd like to come to the microphone, introduce yourself, name, address. All right, and you're the petitioner, so we'll hear from you first.
Okay, so I'm Tyson Egbert. I'm actually representing my grandpa, Don Stokes, who lives there on Midland. I don't know his direct address. Under my understanding, as of Sunday when we reviewed this, it was before it was amended, so I'm not fully prepared. I found out about 2 hours ago that they amended it. We thought there was staff approval recommendation, so our concern is we're a little unprepared, obviously, because we thought it was approved, or not approved, but going to be recommended to be approved. Our concern is currently we have multiple family members that live on the property that has been there for years. My grandpa's been in this, he pretty much was raised on the property, he wants to stay on the property, but he lives currently on Midland, wants to downsize and stay on his property, move to the back of the property to be able to stay there along with a couple of his children, my parents and aunt and uncle, so that they can stay there. And in doing so, it would free up some commercial ground that's in the general plan along Midland. So that's kind of the reasoning for the rezone. Just a little background on Grandpa. He's been part of the city since it was founded back in '91, I believe. He was one of the first council members. Back in 2022, I believe it was, he was the Grand Marshal. Him and Grandma were Grand Marshal at the West Haven days. Just some background on him. He's always been involved. He's been on the cemetery board. He's always just been dedicated to the city, and we just would like to keep him here, keep him on his property, and that's the motive behind this rezone, is to keep him and his children on his farm ground that he was raised on. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, I'm Mike Stokes, and I live on 3600 right there at 2654. My dream has always been to live right there next to my dad. to live there. He's getting older, to be able to help him on his farm. We've never thought it'd be this difficult to do something. We thought it'd be easy because it's his property. He's owned it since the 40s. Well, this one he did sell. His mother sold it years and years ago, and then we ended up buying it back 10, 12 years ago. But we all want to live there where we got access to our cattle. And another thing I want to know is, what's this general plan you're talking about? Who made the plan when you're letting houses go in all around us? Knutson just made a giant development down there. We just done a development and we left all the utilities stubbed right there so we could develop it. And now all of a sudden it's acting like it's not a good idea, and I'm just wondering, what do? We have to move out of West Haven where we grew up our whole lives because somebody's made a plan that moved in maybe 20 years ago and decided West Haven's theirs now? I just hope you consider all these situations. This is kind of a unique area. And think about it before you turn this down, because I want to be one of them that lives on that property. I've got a nephew that wants to live on that property. And so we're all close to my father, my mother. They're getting up in age and we're there to help them. So anyway, that's my concerns.
Great, thank you. And I forgot to mention, be sure and say your address when you come up to. Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions. Chris Williams, that C2 backs us up to us. It says Freeland. Totally incorrect. Williams.
What does it say? So where it says Freeland? Oh, it's William. That's you. Oh, yeah, that's.
Yeah, it says Freeland on the map. They've been gone a long time. We've been there 20 years. So my question is, if you don't approve this zoning and nobody moves in there, you just wait until they decide to sell it commercial? So you have that pocket that just sits there and nobody can use it. When does it become commercial? At what point? When everybody moves away? Yeah, that's my question. When everybody dies off or moves away because of the development that they're not necessarily happy with? So you said you're not going to discuss this, but that is a question I have that I would like to have answered.
Great, thank you. And we will discuss this when it's all done after the hearing, so.
I'm Jared Stokes. I live here in West Haven, but I'm partners with Tyson, so I'm helping Grandpa. But I do live here in West Haven. And then, so according to the plan, like they've said, Garth was stating the general plan, like Tyson said that, a couple days ago we looked and we're like, cool, we got approval, based off all their plans that's on the website and all that stuff. So I kind of want to stress that, we came into this pretty excited, and then I don't know who mentioned it to us, and we're like, denied? No, we have the one that's printed that says it is, approved. But anyways, that, I just want to make sure that, I stress that. But one thing that I have that is a little concerning, so you got 3550. If you guys are, you probably can't see there, but 3550 comes in from 2700. It goes down at dead ends. If you block that dead end, there's no fire turnaround. That stubs into the property ready for a hook in. So whoever ran that was planning on putting that in there because there's no fire. And right now it goes on the property and goes out on a dirt road for fire truck. And you can see that if you look at the plan. I don't know if maybe they can pull it up, but that is
Can you say that name, the street again?
I think it's 3550. It's Glenwood Acres.
Okay, so the one that comes up is to the north of 3600 that makes the right angle right next to the property?
I believe, yes.
20? Looks like it almost says.
Glenwood Acres, yeah, it comes off 2700, and I think it's 3550.
Oh, yeah, so 3550 there. It looks like it's.
Is it? Okay. So that goes down at dead ends, and right now it goes on Grandpa's property for a fire turnaround on a dirt road. But all those stubs are stubbed in. We've verified that. Anyways, so, there's that. And then, like I said, you've got the big chunk out where Grandpa and Todd and Dee Dee and Ken's house is, that those people want to move to the back where it's backed up against a lot of their friends that they've had there forever versus run commercial all the way back, and it's super awkward. So just looking at it from our standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. I know that there's a general plan. Obviously, I know we've deviated from the general plan at some point in the city because there's a lot of that going on. So I just ask if this is a time to deviate, look at all the family members here that would move to the property, stay on the property, Dustin Hepworth gave a great prayer that said, think of the hearts of the people that are here. So just wanted to stress that a little bit, but I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Todd Egbert, and I'm here with my wife Diana. We're on 2526 right there. Don is my father-in-law, and we are there to help him. We told him we was going to be there for him until they pass or be gone. And in order to do this, we feel like we need to make this change to make it work for our family. And Dustin, I think you feel that with where your family is, where we've helped you build over there. I was a big part of helping you over there, and I think you see exactly what we're talking about. And so I feel like this is a good move, and I just feel like I can't believe it's been denied, because I thought this West Haven City was for people and was for family. I even see the people from Peachtree come over in their wheelchairs and sit and watch the property. This would only give them more access to go down a road and to be able to see the cattle. I mean, it's just better for the community. And I hope you guys see it that way. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
My name is Paul Fawson. I've lived in West Haven City for 40 years. We have a farm on 2700. The back part of our property butts up against this parcel that you're talking about changing. I didn't know till I came here tonight that in the master plan, that property on the corner was designated as commercial, which really irritates me, because I was never even a part of making that decision as a member of West Haven City, and I don't think that's right. And I'm sure there are ways that we can work as city members to change that if that seems to be something that's going to continue on. But I think I've already talked to the people that are involved. I'm concerned about the Lotus Park people. They have a big, in their main building, they have a big window. They can view the mountains. They enjoy the cattle. And I think we're going to be taking that away from them if we build a Walmart there or some other thing that is just not right. You know, if Walmart wants to build, let them build down on Midland Drive on 4000. That's where they were planning on going. And to take this and make it right in a residential area is just ridiculous. There are some inherent problems. We do have, when we first moved here, we did have a lot of water problems, and I'm not so sure that we've solved all of those problems. I'm concerned from an infrastructure point, if we have more businesses there. I live on 2700. I can't hardly even pull out of my driveway. And we have grandchildren. My neighbor has little kids. We're worried about them. We also have a couple of businesses on 2700, and I've already talked to the city about some of the problems that are inherent with that. So I would encourage you to change this to R.25. I think that's a good idea. I don't think commercial property is a good idea in this area. And I've lived here for 40 years. I have cows, and there's a lot of people right around me that are farmers too. And I think we're changing the country atmosphere of West Haven to a commercial atmosphere, and I'm not too happy with that. Anyway, I hope you'll consider this. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Lynette Fawson. We've lived here 44 years, actually. And loved it, and we love this family. And Don grew up here. His family has been here for how many years? He's way old. And I love you all. I want you to know that. They're the type of neighbors that we came to, out here to be a part of. We love this. I agree with everything that Paul just said. If this goes through and they are allowed to build, just a couple of things that I wanted to say. They were talking about one-story only homes. How far away from that ditch, the drainage ditch, how much footage, and who's responsible for that ditch? Would it be filled in by the city and piped in? That needs to happen. There's a lot of Russian olive trees that grow along that ditch that are a big, big problem, that are carried down and around to the east-west facing ditch. Russian olives are a menace to this whole area, and they said that they would not fill those ditches in until the building is done. Well, the building will never be done. When is that going to happen? And how are they going to access it if homes are built there? So that is one big thing. I know that yearly or every other year they have a big fire because they're cutting trees down and burn those. How can they do that if there are homes built in there? So that ditch is a big concern that needs to be addressed, I think. The care center, we are there 2 days a week with these people. We see them and know them and love them and hear their concerns. They love that pasture. They love the mountain. And to take that view away, these guys said that they're going to be one story only, which is great because the people, these are a lot of residents that need, they don't get out and about a lot. And I'd love to see them have that view. They love your cows. They love watching them. In apartments, are they allowed at all? Hopefully not, because that takes everybody's view of the mountains. And I like the idea of one-story homes. That's a great idea. I would love to have these guys stay as neighbors. I love them all. I know there's something else, but I can't remember. The commercial, how did that come about? Did we ever even know any of that? I mean, how did that come about? This was their family land. I don't understand how they can just come in and say that it's future commercial without, how can they just say that? So I'm very concerned about that too. I don't like that idea at all. Our road is already terrible. They said with businesses, we would never have any semi-trucks on this road. We have tons. We have tons of big, horrible, awful trucks that are a threat to my grandchildren, to the neighbors across the road who have little ones coming up. There's no fences, but we can't have more of that in a residential area. So I think that that's ridiculous to say that you're going to bring that in. Anyway, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Corey Kirkman. I live at 2560 West, 3600 South, to the lot just to the east of it. And I'm all right with Don staying on his land and all of his family, just so you guys know that. I'm a lot to the east of it.
Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me, I'm really nervous. I've never done this
Don't
before.
be nervous.
So I'm 28, I'm Jackson Porter. I actually built my first townhome just a little bit down Midland on the right-hand side of the road in the Riverbend Apartments. And my wife and I built that brand new in, I think, 2017, and I was just 18 at the time. And we've loved West Haven. We grew up in Roy. We love West Haven. It's always been the place where we wanted to live because it's country. And at the end of the dirt road, right here, I live at the very end house. So I am the corner house. Like the dirt road is next to my property. I put a fence right there when we built it a few years ago. But the reason like we moved here was because we didn't want to be way out in West Haven, and we love, like, there's some land, there's cows by us, like we have a view, it's awesome right here. And since we moved in, Dawn and the family has welcomed us, and we didn't know them beforehand. Since we moved in, they welcomed us like family. The neighborhood is awesome. And I just can't imagine living right next to a parking lot and a commercial residential area. That would definitely cause me and my wife to want to move and find somewhere else to live. We just love the openness, the cows, and we have people come down our street all the time that live at Lotus Park Old Folks Home, and they say how much they love to come just to this dirt end right here, and they just watch the sunrise in the mornings. They'll come on their wheelchairs, and they've worked so hard, they've had this land for so long. I just don't see how it is fair to them and their families to have it taken or removed from them for something that they don't want for it. They've worked really hard for it over all the years. So I love it being cow fields and openness and neighborhoods. I would much rather it be neighborhoods than commercial. So I just thought I would come here. I didn't know about this until about 3 days ago, but I thought I would come and voice my opinion and see if it helps. So thank you so much for listening.
Great, thank you.
Warning, I'm Don Stokes. I've only been here for about 75 years. This was a wonderful place when I moved in, and it's still a wonderful place. It's changed a lot though. But I've owned the property all my life, and I want my children close to me. The closer they are, the better I feel. I have a wonderful family. I have wonderful neighbors. I love every one of them. This place is heaven on earth. I don't think I need a big old grocery store sitting right in my backyard, but down the road I would like to put a grocery store and stuff like that in on Midland Drive, right there where I'm at. And if we get this ground developed like my kids want to do, and so they can move in close to me. I'm not promising nothing here, I'm just talking. But I might knock my house down and put a grocery store or something in there so we'll got it handy down the road. But over there on Midland Drive, not down in the middle of the field. But anyway, I want you guys to help me get my family where I want them to be. I know you all probably have children and grandchildren, you know what I'm talking about. So please take care of us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Justin Pingree. I live on 3404 2700 West. My hypocrisy only goes to an extent, so I've essentially done what they have done and moved closer to my dad. Similar reasons. The only thing I ask is that everything's held to the stipulations I was as a 23-year-old kid. I mean, to sell land and have it developed so that they can afford to do this, in my opinion, who knows what they're gonna do, and I hope they're held to the same stipulations, because to have everybody move there but then claim that they've been here forever, my hypocrisy only goes so far. And I feel like the city itself, to have a 9-page thing of you guys not necessarily following your own rules and then having these guys in the misunderstanding that this is commercial, explains a lot of the city in the future. And I think to play favoritism of I've helped who more in this, there's a lot of families that have to work a lot harder, and not everybody is born with a golden spoon in their mouth, for lack of a better term. So I just hope the stipulations, it's his land, he can do what he wants with what's approved. But I hope the stipulations are withheld in regards to the codes and requirements, because that has happened to us on the north side of our parcel. To my understanding, there's supposed to be a privacy fence. There wasn't. 4 houses went in right behind us, and I guarantee it was to push our dad out. And the Stokes were heavily involved, so I do have a partial opinion on that. But I think hypocrisy is a big issue in West Haven, and I think it needs to be addressed. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone online wishing to speak? I want to make sure we... No. All right, anyone else? All right, with that, we will go ahead and close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to close public hearing. Oh, with my microphone on, move to close public hearing.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Reed and a second by Commissioner Reyna to exit public hearing. And first of all, I just want to comment and thank everyone for just decorum and being so polite. You know, we aren't always going to agree and have differing opinions, but this was probably one of the most respectful and kind of emotional too. I mean, this is hard, and I think maybe, Amy, we can explain maybe a little bit.
You need to take the vote, though.
Oh, I didn't finish it? Sorry, I got caught up in the
The
motions.
motion, but you didn't.
Motion,
take
okay,
the-
motions. Okay, all in favor of exiting public hearing?
Aye.
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 Okay, aye. So we're exiting public hearing. Now I'll, we just go on from there. But Amy, do we want to explain a few things? Just kind of our limitations? And like the history of the general plan. Like, do we have dates? Like, I wonder if that would be helpful.
So back in, so the general plan itself, like the report, I was looking up to just get the dates for that. Was back in 2014, and we've done a couple amendments since 2014. However, back in 2020, 2021, the general plan, the overall big document itself is 2014. But back in 2020, 2021, and a couple of you were on I believe Andrew, you were here, and so was Becky, that Steve Anderson brought forth a number of changes to the general plan map. And there were public hearings held, there were open houses held regarding that. And so it wasn't just done, I mean, there's a whole process to have to amend the general plan map. And that's what happened back in that time, and that's what we're controlled by. And in 2014, the map was showing that this should be R2.5, but then at the very bottom, it was C2. It was like, you can still go see Exhibit A on the general plan report that it shows, like at the bottom, there's kind of a triangular piece but through the process that was gone through in 2020, that's when it changed so that all of this area is C2. And and really we are constrained by what the general plan map is saying. If a property owner wants to change what the general plan map is, which is the future zoning, they can petition the city to change what their designation is going to be in the future. Right now, the rezone is, this is what we want to have the zoning be right now. The general plan map is showing, this is what it should be in the future, and if the rezone doesn't match up with the general plan map, then that's where your issue is, and that's where we are right now. There can always be a petition to the city to go through a whole process to amend the general plan map regarding this particular piece. I don't know what the city would say to that. I mean, it's kind of in an interesting spot, because if you look at the other map that was provided to you, the current zoning, it's showing all A1, and then to the west, those light blue are R2 is R2, so it doesn't even border, it doesn't even border in R2.5. The R2.5 is that middle 3520 south, so that's a whole nother thing. But so I don't know how who knows how the city council would feel about having an R2.5 there, plus there's buffering issues too.
So, Amy, I've got a question. It's currently zoned A1.
Yes.
So if they wanted to come through with a development that was fit the A1 criteria, there's nothing we could do. I mean, they could potentially go through with that, right?
Oh, yeah, they could subdivide it with the A1 size lots and move forward.
Which is 1 acre per lot.
No.
Minus
20,000 square feet.
how much?
20,000.
20,000?
Half acre residential.
Okay, and so you would lose roughly half the lots going from a 2.5. I mean, without doing the exact math, you'd go from how many lots were proposed?
You go from, I think they're proposing probably 12,500
Okay.
up to 20,000, so they'd be larger. It wouldn't be
They'd be significantly larger, but I'm just asking for what it currently is.
Yeah, so they're proposing 10 lots. If you flip to the last page of the report, Robin, yeah, that's what they're proposing. The problem with that proposal, too, is that because of the buffering requirements, those lots would have to be bigger than what they're showing right now, even if it did get made R2.5, because it's surrounded by R2 and surrounded on the other side by the A1.
A1.
Yeah.
So it'd have to be somewhere in the middle, is
Yeah.
what you're suggesting?
Well, that's just what the code is,
Yeah.
saying. And I'm not saying that it isn't possible for the city council to say, yeah, we're willing to amend the general plan map, and then they come back in with the rezone with what they are asking for the, but that's where we're at.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to gather more information.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a buffering issue too, as to how big the lots can be because of that A1 designation on the.
Where was the buffering with the R2 that went in that has the Lotus and the other, that even the R2.5, how did that buffering get?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I don't know how old those developments are, so I can't answer the question as to what was looked at. I just know that moving forward in the pretty recent future, there's been discussions
Yeah.
regarding wanting to make sure.
Yeah, we've gone through that as a planning commission, having those buffering zones and stuff like that, and so I get that.
Can I say anything? Or is this just discussing?
No, this is just, I mean,
But
well,
if
you
he's
can
the
ask
petitioner,
questions.
yeah, he's the
He's
petitioner.
petitioner,
so
so
go
yeah,
ahead
you
and come on
can
up and
have him
go ahead
address.
and step up to the microphone. Just,
So this is just a preliminary drawing, just as a rough draft. This is nothing set in stone. I was talking, I believe Alika was here previously.
Yeah, she was the planner.
Yeah, so we did this drawing based off, we sat down with her in a meeting. She told us all the requirements. As far as buffering, that road would meet code in a 2.5 for the buffer if we put it on that side based off what she was informing us. So this is just preliminary. It's not set in stone. It's not even our plan. It was just a ballpark idea kind of showing, because she said we needed some kind of concept drawing. So we're totally open to whatever we need to do to make those changes. This was just to get the ball rolling.
No, this isn't holding you to anything. This is just.
No, but I was just clarifying that this is just a preliminary concept drawing.
So during some of that, I did look up the zoning ordinance and did look up the buffering stuff, and I understood it as that a road or a canal or something could act as the buffering between zones. But I was just quickly breezing through
That
in
was
between
our
people.
understanding. That's why we
And
moved the
so,
road to that side.
Yeah, that was mainly why I was asking about the buffering and what it was currently zoned, what it could be.
And then same with the fire turnaround. We met with the engineering and the fire chief and came up with that. So that was obviously preliminary, but we tried to address everything just so you guys could see that it would work. Even with the retention pond that the engineer said that would be required as well. So that's where we came up with that concept, which is clearly a concept drawing only. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I wanted to just address to Mrs. Stokes, sorry. No apartments that is not, it's not zoned for apartments. It would be, the general plan is commercial, but right now it's A1. So I think there's always a concern that high density could go in.
Well, and R2.5 doesn't allow apartments.
Yeah.
So
And
just to,
even on the C2 is limited. So that would have to be, it wouldn't be something that would be any type of residential on it in the future for those that, if that ends up getting C2 is not something that can be inhabited by somebody. It's more like a small business with large parking lot type thing. So, from my understanding.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Amy, could you do a favor for me and clarify a couple issues? Folks were talking about, and I don't want them to leave this meeting with the understanding that it was approved and then disapproved. Could you maybe expound a little bit upon the process where the staff did the analysis, and the PC makes a recommendation, and the city council is the one who actually have approval, disapproval authority, so we don't have anybody leaving here tonight thinking it was approved and then disapproved?
So Garth touched on this when he first addressed it. What happened was when the staff memo was drafted, which is not an approval or denial of anything. It's just, this is the analysis of, here's what has been requested, here's what the general plan map says. When that was first done last week, because of where the maps are on our city website, you have the general plan map, or you have the general plan, and it has under Exhibit A, the general plan map. And that is a different map it's from 2014. The one that is under maps, under the community development, that is the updated map. And unfortunately, the clip of the map of the 2014 map was put on there, so it looked like it complied with the general plan. That's why the staff report needed to be amended, that was what was done on Monday and Tuesday, is amending it so that it depicted the right general plan map. Anyway, the memo just gives recommendations based upon, here's what our code is, here's what the general plan map is. The Planning Commission only has the authority to recommend approval or denial of an application. And this is the case on a number of different things, but with rezones especially. They can't approve it, they can't deny it. All they can do is recommend to the city council. There will not be another public hearing. It goes to the city council next. If the Planning Commission recommends it, they can recommend approval of the application, they can recommend denial of the application, or they can table it for more information. But those are the only actions that they can take. And then if it goes to the city council, they're the ones who makes the decision as to whether or not to approve or deny the application.
So regardless, it'll go to council?
It does go to council when they make their recommendation one way or the other.
One way or the other, it still
Yeah.
goes to.
Is there input that can be done at council from the general public?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you can always submit emails to the council, but they will not be holding another public hearing regarding that.
but the petitioner does have an opportunity to speak.
Yes, the
Correct, just
petitioner would. So the petitioner would have the same opportunity as tonight. What'll happen is it's presented, basically the same staff memo will be presented, except for it'll be amended with whatever the Planning Commission recommends, one way or the other. And then it'll go to to the city council. The city council will ask for the background, and then they'll call the petitioner up to answer any questions that they have.
And then if it's denied at that point, is there an?
Can you stand at the microphone, please? Because people online can't hear.
So if it does go to that point, gets denied, is there an appeal process at that point?
Yes, you can appeal it to, we have an appeal hearings officer.
And who is the hearing officer?
It's Craig Call.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So an option, I think it will be difficult for us to, we can recommend it, but I think in the past, we follow the general plan pretty closely. So even if we deny it, which is, I'm trying to give them some options, so we can, take a vote and make a recommendation, it'll go to city council. Then they could start the process, they could either appeal it, or they could, opening the general plan, it takes some time if there was gonna be a change in the general plan, right?
Yeah.
Like what's the process of like changing the general plan? If say we, maybe it would be more prudent to make just a corner commercial and then have more residential to match the residential that's already in existence, what would be
So
their
we kind of
process?
started going through this process, like we have, we've been trying to work on the general plan and make changes. We've had meetings with planning commission and, and with city council together with that. We've had a change as to the consultant regarding moving forward with those changes. The hope is, because we're looking at some long-term planners to come in and be able to finish that. But there's public hearings that have to be held, and there's certain notice provisions that, and I would love to tell you exactly what those are, but it's all codified, but there are public hearings that have to be held in order to be able to amend
The general
general
plan. Like,
plan
it's a
map.
process. To amend the general plan
Yes.
is quite a,
Yeah. And the general plan process is very much like the rezone process. There's public hearings. But typically, when you're opening the general plan, you're looking at it more comprehensively and bigger.
Not one parcel at a
Right.
time.
Rezone is very specific, parcel specific. The general plan, again, the analysis would probably be a lot larger. We would look at, or not we, but whoever would analyze that would look at it in a larger view. Sometimes it's hard to do a general plan amendment on a small parcel. I really couldn't, it's just, everyone is really different. Usually when you do the general plan, you look at the whole city, which is what you're in the process of doing right now. So there's a couple of options here, and there were a couple things brought up in the public hearing that I just wanted to make sure everybody understood. It's not zoned commercial, it's zoned A1. The petitioner and the property owners have the rights to enjoy the zoning designation that they have, which is the A1, which would be the 20,000 square foot lots. So that's always an option. If they were to make a petition to do the general plan, I guess we just have to figure out what that process is. Some of the other issues that were brought up are more development related. The ditch, the Russian olives, those really aren't, we can't really address those until you have a development plan that says how to do those. And general plans are difficult because it's put on a map and it becomes official, but it's not the zone. No one's taking the property, no one's gonna force the property owner to make commercial. Property owner still has, a great deal of control over their property, but when it comes to rezoning it, it's hard to have a planning commission or the city or even the staff look at the general plan and see what it is and then say, oh yeah, this doesn't make sense, so we're gonna recommend you just throw the general plan out. Once you do that, your general plan doesn't work anywhere. It just becomes very arbitrary. So you don't have, and I'm not sure that maybe the city has ever done this on a specific piece, opening up the general plan. My time in Ogden, when there would be a conflict with the land use plan and the property owner's plans, the city had a pretty specific process for opening the general plan in smaller areas. That may be something that you may want to consider. But I really don't think that that's happened, because when we wrote the staff report, I did mention that an option for the landowner is to petition for a general plan amendment to bring it more consistent with what they want or what they're asking for. And there were some comments about, I don't know how we do that. We've never, there's not an application for that. So it is a little different process. So,
okay,
I just wanted to address a few things. Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who proposes the amendment?
The petitioner would.
So a citizen can actually petition.
So a general plan amendment, the question was, who proposes that? Most of the time, the city proposes it. because we're doing a general plan update. That was probably directed by the city council. In this case, it would be a petition from a landowner. So the petitioner, much like a zoning application, probably would be very similar to that application, would petition to open the general plan and consider this area. And then just kind of thinking, you may want to consider it, probably not consider it very specific to just the Stokes property and the Stokes farm, but maybe a little larger, and how changing that would impact some of the other surrounding areas if you were to open it up. So it may be considered like a smaller area than the general plan, larger than the petitioner's property. I mean,
Petition the city council or the planning commission?
I think the city council, the petition would go to the city council.
Would have to go through the planning commission first.
Well, the city council would have to direct the planning commission to open the general plan. So I think the petition would go to the city council.
I think that's just one of those things we'd have to go through the code and the Utah State Code. Yeah. Because the state code actually directs how to deal with general plans. What kind of public hearings you have to have.
Yeah, but it would, the process would essentially start with the planning commission, the land use authority for that.
Okay, thank you.
Could I make a few comments and maybe ask a question or two?
Sure, go ahead. Do you want the petitioner for this, or direct us with us?
To the planning commission and the city staff. Well, I guess first of all, I kind of wanted on behalf of the as a planning commission member to apologize to our citizens for the confusion that has happened on this. We've explained what happened, and it was there was a wrong map looked at, and so I know that our citizens were expecting one thing and then found out that we've got something different, and I apologize for that. Those things happen. I want to say we've heard a lot of everyone that's spoken today has made some very compelling arguments, and I appreciate that. And like has been stated, I appreciate the decorum. I guess my question really gets to, I thought the general plan was already open. We spent a lot of time last fall on the general plan. We had citizen committees, we looked at maps, we looked at language. I was kind of under the impression that we were far along into that process. I had not seen any maps changed because of that, but I was under the impression that the general plan was open and that there were changes to the maps being proposed. And so I guess my question really is, where is that?
Well, that's what I addressed a few moments ago. Yes, we were, all last year, we had a consultant who conducted surveys that went all through the spring and into the, like West Haven days. They were doing like surveying too at West Haven days. And then it was supposed to be being drafted by our last community development director, Sherry Phippen, but she ended up leaving the very first week of October. In the process of that, with her leaving, we had hired Mike Hansen. He's the one that met with the Planning Commission and the City Council, and also I know that he appeared at a citizen group that was also being led by the other consultant who was doing the public outreach. However, because of some differences of what the city felt needed to be done versus what Mike Hansen was offering, there was a difference. And so it is halted at this point until we are able to get somebody new. And we're in the process of going through applications and stuff for a new long-range planner, which is for our general plan. So it's in the process, you're right, there's been stuff put on the table, well, not put on the table, but there's been work sessions held regarding making amendments to the general plan, but we are still a ways away from finishing that work because there's some very specific requirements made by the legislature as to what we need to have in the general plan and trying to get those sort of things updated. So it's not finished and we are still in process.
Thank you for that explanation.
I just have a couple of comments. I think, so when I started on the Planning Commission in like 2019, there were a lot of, and as some of you mentioned, there seemed to be a lot of inconsistencies in the city processes. I do want to say that since then, the city has made great efforts to remedy those things. We've hired a city manager, we've hired city planners to help with those things, just because as we grow as a city and as we encounter more issues and more people coming in, more people wanting to develop this fast growing area, we need that help, we need that assistance to one, make sure that we are complying with any state statutes that we need to follow, but two, to protect the city against any liabilities that may come. You know, there are people that can come and ask for certain things, and it can expose us if we're not following things the way they need to be done. And while I know that there is a great sentiment and this is a great reason to rezone this, we need to, I don't know if I can word this correctly, but in making sure that we're following all these processes, we've tried to do the best that we can to stick with the general plan, because that's the process, that's the way it's supposed to be done. And abide by all these rules that we're saying, so that way we don't combine, somebody else comes and says, well, you let this person do it and we can't do it now. We're trying to eliminate those now, right? And if we keep letting someone slip in and be like, okay, you know, we'll give you the graces, it never ends, right? So for us, we want to make sure that you get everything that you want and that you want to be able to do with your property. But I think in this case, there are some other avenues that we might need to follow as opposed to just a straightforward rezone. I think there are some other things we can look at that have been mentioned, like maybe seeing if you can develop the parcel as is currently with the existing zoning, or look into what a general plan and that process might be like to remake that general plan. As far as I can remember, I think this has always been commercial. It is along Midland, and that's kind of where we focused on putting commercial in the city, because Midland's just going to get bigger and bigger and there's going to be more and more traffic driving through there. So it seemed to fit there, but at the same time, you know, that the general plan is a changing document. It's not fixed in stone like the existing zoning map is. And that's why you elect city council members to, I guess, kind of spearhead these changes and do those things, and then they appoint us to the planning commission to help keep that vision of what the city should look like. And that all is started with your input as you have the power to elect those officials. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this issue. I'm inclined to deny it from a procedural standpoint, right? I want you guys to be able to develop this land the way that you want to do it, but I think there may be some other processes that can be followed to possibly get to that point than what is being done right now, or what is proposed before us right now.
So with that, excuse me, the whole point of a rezone application is to rezone. So why do we have to go against the general plan and petition for that on a general plan? That's where I'm confused. I thought a rezone is to rezone. It doesn't matter what the general plan is. So that's the part where I'm confused.
So when we make the general plan, we're pretty much saying that any rezones that come in are going to follow that general plan. So if someone wants to come in and rezone something from existing now, we look at the general plan and say, okay, this is what the plan for the city is. This is what we've put in the general plan ordinance of what this should be. And someone coming in to rezone, we match that, because that's what we've said, that's what the plan is.
So that defeats the purpose of a rezone application.
No, because you still need to go through the process to do it.
That's where I'm confused, because now they're saying we need a petition where we've already done a rezone application. It's the same thing in theory, so where's the difference, especially when you guys don't have anything in place to petition? That's where I'm confused.
Yeah, and I see
So
Go ahead, George.
I think, to answer your question, sir, I think what you're getting at is the fact that we're trying to provide some different options, but you're absolutely right. The rezone accomplishes what you want to accomplish in asking for the rezone to R2.5. I think there was some notion that, well, if that rezone is denied, then another avenue might be to pursue a change to the general plan. But you're absolutely right. The rezone accomplishes what you want to do.
Not exactly, though. It's a procedural issue.
Yeah, it's a procedural issue. So yes, the rezone from, and I could be completely wrong on this, but the rezone is that you want to rezone it to 2.5. Us not recommending it, or us recommending it to the city council and then the city council denying it, their justification would be that it goes against the general map. So the general map is there as a blueprint for them to say, we've set these guidelines and we want to stay within those guidelines, and that's why we're denying. Right, whether I agree with that or not, I'm just trying to
No, I appreciate that.
explain.
That's explained a lot better.
Yeah,
right
it's
there.
not that the rezone can't happen. It's the reason it might not happen is because the general map shows that this is what we want. This is what the previous councils, the previous commissions have said the direction of the city is best.
So moving forward, we can try to get something streamlined on how to petition then, since we don't know how to do that yet. Is that something we can work towards?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that the city, the staff here would be able to help you with that. I mean, personally, on my feelings on this, I struggle, because this is what you guys are wanting to do, is what we need more of in the city. Less high density. I think 2.5, I had some heartburn with it. With 2.5, I think that's just a little bit tight, but there's areas that are next to you. I just don't see one parcel over being an issue, but I agree with Commissioner Reyna that where do you draw the line at letting it go through?
So
I can in good conscience not recommend this, because I think this is what is wanted by the citizens. I think the easy button here is to keep it at A1 and just proceed with larger lot sizes, but that might not fit your end game or your end goal financially, whatever it is that the reason to go to a 2.5. But I just think that this is the reason that in my experience and what I know, the reason the general map was done the way it was is we went through a decade or more of pretty much just willy-nilly mixed use being put everywhere. And that's what the people don't realize that the way that the length of these processes is not overnight. A lot of these developments that we're seeing, a lot of the apartment buildings, these happened almost decade or more ago.
I understand that.
And so my position as a commission member is not necessarily, I can't go back in time and fix what was done before me, but I can try and correct what we're going to do going forward. I only have like I said, we only have this general map to go off of. I wholly encourage you guys to petition to have something like this. In my opinion, I think this is something that should go through, but I am also just one of, 10 people by the time more than that, by the time it gets to the commission and then to the council. But there's a process. I understand your guys' confusion. I was actually confused When I found out that there was an updated packet, I didn't realize that the map had not been updated, but know that the reason for that map isn't to pigeonhole your grandfather, is it your grandfather that owns the property, into a C2 zoning. That is not the purpose of the general map. The general map is to say, the facts of the matter is our city is growing tremendously, and our main corridors are 4700 and Midland. That's where we have the ability to put commercial revenue.
Like Grandpa
And it-
addressed, he plans on that front. That's why he wants to get off Midland.
Yeah.
My question on that previous map that was uploaded originally, you had the zone on the master plan cutting through the properties. Can we rezone it that way, or is it, because obviously they've done it just because it's easier to do parcel to
Yes,
parcel.
and that's honestly, I can guarantee a lot of why that line is drawn that way is because it's parcel to parcel. We had issues on other sections of the map where C2 and residential or A1 came across, and at that point, the law was that you could choose, the petitioner could choose which zone to go with if there was two. And I think they wanted to do away with that because if one person chooses A1 and the next one chooses C2 and then the next one over chooses
Totally
A1,
makes sense.
it starts, you know,
I
this.
figured that was the case, and that totally makes sense. So
Yeah.
that's not something you'd want to petition for, is cutting through the properties again. You'd want
The way these parcels are laid out, north and south, east and west, it's so hard to get with Midland cutting through all these. It's so hard to get it. If it were me and in your position, I would petition your parcel to be
Subdivided.
changed on the general plan.
subdivide that before we go to the
Yeah, or
rezone.
stick with the A1 designation and ask for maybe a higher density through the planning commission and the city council. I think that's something that we can look into or entertain. I don't think you're going to get the same amount of lots, but I think you could potentially, with the justification of next to you is an R2 and even some R2.5, that you could have something there. That's just my opinion. But yeah, it's unfortunate that it got to the point that it did, and then we had to come back from that. But a lot of that is procedural. It is because there was too much inconsistency, and there's been a lot of confusion and back and forth on stuff. But being involved in the planning commission has taught me one thing, and that's we are trying to steer this ship in one direction to keep it consistent. And it's not to keep people from doing what they want with their property, but it's trying to keep things consistent. And I don't see, like I said, personally, my view is I don't see any issue with developing it to an A1 as it currently stands with higher density, or even petitioning to do to change the general plan. That's going to be a lengthier process, as was described, but it might get you what you actually want. But my fear is with recommending it, one, it was recommended that we would have to justify with some findings. I don't think that's an issue, but I think the city council is even more stringent on holding to the general plan. So it might be worth it for you guys to table and or discuss with city staff on what you can do to petition to have the general map amended.
Well, at this point, if we got recommendation for approval from you guys and went to council, it could still go through, correct?
Council could approve it. Historically
They
speaking,
can approve either way. So
Yeah, they can deny it
even
or
if
they
we
can approve
recommend
it.
denial,
Yes.
they can approve it.
Yeah, I totally understand
Yeah.
that. So at
Do
this,
all the legwork and get all the comments and try to kind of wrap it up for them and give it to
Yeah.
them. But I'm trying to think, last year, there was one that I think we were in favor of, one that made sense, and they really like to stick to the general plan, even when
Yeah,
it's
it
a
was
pretty
like 2
compelling.
months ago.
That was
and
about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And
They, they denied it because it did not meet the general plan.
And even though we felt very strong,
yeah,
we take all of your
uncategorically.
opinions, we do, we write them down, and so we try to, but it'll be a tough battle if we approved it tonight.
but nothing stops the process from petitioning to change the general plan.
yeah,
So to your point,
yeah, like I said, we want to do it, we just don't know what to do yet. So at this point, I would say, help us out, you guys vote yes and let council be the bad guys.
Amy, would
well,
there be
and-
any?
but I'll only hesitate with that is that I don't think the council is out there to be the Scrooge.
I
of
know
all
they're
this.
not. I'm just, that was more.
Yeah, I get that. Out of all the city councils since I've been out here, I really think this current city council has done a great job of getting this city back on track with having the previous administrations before what they've done kind of looming over them. They've had to fight a stigma that isn't necessarily theirs, but the only way to do that is through consistency. I've learned that with being a parent is the only way that I can discipline my kids is consistency.
Yep.
And so right, wrong, or indifferent, this is the process, but I would be more than happy to help any way I can in any capacity to help you move forward with other processes or steps. But I would recommend it, but just knowing that the chance is pretty
No, I
strong that they
appreciate
deny it.
Principle, I think a lot of us, I think, if we
Well,
told us, I think it makes
yeah,
sense.
and even not just out of the principle thing, but just out of the logical, looking at what's there, what it was zoned. I honestly think that when Steve Anderson went through and there was kind of this redoing of things in 2020, 2021, parcel wise, it just made sense.
Yeah.
Nothing was, there's houses that are on the front of a lot of these properties with a lot of property behind it. The prospect of it getting subdivided one parcel at a time didn't make as much sense as just blanketing it to C2. Now, I can't speak that that's actually what happened, but looking at the way the lines were drawn, that makes the most sense.
Yeah, and just where it's that far off Midland, that's why we thought this isn't a big ask.
Yeah, it's hard. It really is, because a lot of what was talked about were that community outreach, that I happened to be a part of some of those meetings, and it was really stressed that there's cities that didn't look to the future on these major thoroughfares, and they regret it. And it's a lot of that's because eventually North Davis Corridor is going to be connecting through, and it's going to be the North Weber Willard Corridor. I don't know what they've announced it as, but the major off ramp to that's going to be 4700, and then that's going to funnel everything to Midland. And I know that that's a lot of the reason this stuff along Midland was changed to C2.
Because Hinckley will
C1.
connect to that.
Hinckley
that
will,
boulevard.
Hinckley will connect to that. There's going to be other roads that are on there that you can see on the general plan that are going to branch off of near that area.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, like I said, I think that your best approach, I'm for recommending it, but I don't want to get your hopes up a second time.
No, I appreciate that though.
Amy, what would be the process of either, okay, he could withdraw, or just move forward and go to the city council and try to, explain the situation and likely be denied. Is there any advantage to withdrawing his petition?
I don't see any advantage to it, frankly. There's more an advantage to just moving forward, because if they deny it, then asking them to direct, the planning commission to look at doing a general plan map is probably the thing that.
I think they'd get better feedback from the city council at that moment in time of how they feel, kind of get a test of the waters of what they're thinking in that
Because
moment.
the city council could say, no, we're sorry. I mean, they've been very protective of their commercial areas because of, just like what you were talking about, wanting to make sure that they protect the commercial. So that would probably be your best bet as to finding out how they feel about doing something different with this particular parcel. That doesn't, if they say, no, we're denying it, and they say, no, we're not willing to open it up for just this parcel, you can always, like I said, appeal to the appeal hearing officer.
Okay, so at this point, you guys will vote today, give your recommendation. Council's next week,
It is.
and that's when we would present this to council, regardless approval or denial, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I appreciate you guys' time.
If you decide to build on A1, can they turn your building permits now? Can you still get a building permit?
So,
Well, if it changes to multiple parcels, it would have to go through
a subdivision.
a subdivision approval
process.
So, but they can't, as long as you meet the criteria of what the city requires through the city engineer with retention ponds, road sizes and stuff, they wouldn't be able to pull permit right away until they have parcel numbers subdividing it into the 5, 6, whatever, how many ever would fit. But if I'm not mistaken, Amy, as long as they meet all the requirements for a subdivision in an A1,
Yeah.
they could move
They'd have to
forward
come back through the planning commission, regarding that for
for the
those.
subdivision approval.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I do just have
Okay.
one
All right.
question that's like kind of.
Okay, usually we don't do this,
Microphone.
but we've,
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and step up to the mic, just so that those online can hear. We've kind of broken protocol a little bit, allowing comments, but we want you guys to know you're heard, like we are hearing what you have to say, but go ahead. Usually we don't with public hearing, but we'll just allow this question. one
I was
last
just gonna say, if, like, let's just say residential isn't what Don, or commercial isn't what Don wanted to do with his land, could the city just say like, I'm sorry, this is what's gonna happen with this land, and like, you don't have a choice, even though it's your land? Or could he just forever say like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna sell it residential or commercial, and just sit on that forever? Or could the city actually force him to do something? I'm just curious.
No, the city's not gonna force him to, unless there's eminent domain involved, and there's no reason why the city would do that. There's no reason at all why the city would do, condemn that property. And so he could sit on it as A1.
Understood. I just wasn't sure if it could ever be forced to like be a grocery store or something like that if he didn't agree.
A city's not gonna look at eminent domain unless you're looking at some sort of, bigger purpose, and they're never going to condemn some property to stick a retail store on. It's just not.
I got it, and that's what I wanted to see. It didn't seem like West Haven would ever do something like that, and so it was just a question.
For those that are interested, a lot of what might help you understand what's going on here is if you Googled land use policy or land use law or code in Utah, that will really help you understand your rights as a landowner and also the rights of the city to justify a general plan, zoning plan. It helped me tremendously getting into this position is to read through that land use policy, and that it'll make sense more now that you've been to a meeting and you understand what we're saying, that if you took some time to read that helps.
Would you say that website one more time?
Just Google land use law, land use policy in Utah.
Cool. Okay. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yep.
No, and it might be more of where a lot of the existing is all family involved. So I think that kind of helps your argument with getting the zoning. If you met with city council or, someone just talking about your plans to maybe ask for the general plan when we open it up again, explaining their family property that some aren't going to be leaving, and, development of that commercially is going to be difficult if some are set the roots, but this part would be acceptable to commercial development. And so I think that might help with, some of those discussions. And the city council, they're open to those discussions and, hearing input. And I think this has been a really good presentation, I think, on community input and being respectful about it. And, we hear you, and it's really hard because we don't have that much control. We might look like we do, but we really don't. We want to hear everything. We want to identify, with the ordinances and with the zoning, and help form our opinions, but also present it to the city council with a lot of the legwork done. But I think it would be an uphill battle, even if we all were in agreement to approve this. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the road. And so I think we've given those options. And with that, any other comments or?
I'd just like
Dr.
to thank everybody. You've been very nice, very respectful. We've heard you. I tend to be a rules kind of guy, and I follow plans. So I'm sorry in advance, but thank you all very much. You've been really, really nice. I'm glad that friends and neighbors and family came out tonight. So
It's not always like this, just
And
so you know.
In particular,
not always like
this gentleman right here who's forgive me for saying this, but he's much younger by a bit, but we don't get a lot of younger people involved in the city and in these meetings. So and it helps because, you know, you're the future, and we have a lot of young people in higher density areas that just don't come and express their voice, and it's good to have someone here representing that. So.
All right, anything else before we go to the motion?
I'll do it. I move to recommend to the city council to deny the Stokes Farms parcel 080280026 rezone application from A1 to R2.5 based upon the fact that the petition is inconsistent with the general plan future use.
All right, we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Reed and a second by Commissioner Galt. All in favor of, make sure I'm saying this right, all in favor of denying the motion?
Aye.
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 Nay.
So we have 4 ayes with Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Reyna, Commissioner Galt, and Commissioner Lamar. Nays by Commissioner Roundy and Commissioner Hepworth. All right, so motion carries. The petition is denied, but you do go on to City Council. I think we've kind of hopefully explained this. Did I miss something?
Yeah, the petition's not denied. It's a recommended.
Sorry. Recommended to City Council. So the agenda item, make sure I'm saying that right.
So the
is
motion was
recommendation.
correct.
The motion was correct, okay. Okay, perfect. So it will go on to City Council next week, a recommendation. And they can still email City Council, even though you can't participate as a public for public hearing. Who would they email to if they wanted to, you know?
All of them.
Yeah.
Is there like one central email?
Emails
or-
are on the website.
All their emails are on the website. So.
Yeah,
So
and I'd make sure you go in there prepared to talk about the general plan and kind of getting that, seeing what their thoughts are, and opening that up to get it changed. But yeah, just that's an important conversation to have with them. So.
Council, will I be able to speak with them, or is it?
Just you will be. Yep, just you, because you're the petitioner. So you, and I think it has you and Dawn listed as the petitioners, so I think you both could represent. It just won't allow the general public or anyone online to participate, so. All right, I know this is hard. This is kind of these ones are hard ones, because it's, yeah, it makes sense when something makes sense, but you know, we have, and you know, sometimes things might make sense to a group and we still have to follow the plan, but hopefully things, it might just take a little while, so.
Yeah, and again, I think I speak for everyone that voted for denial. It's not that we don't want you to be able to do what you're petitioning with the land, it's a procedural thing. And so we're just trying to keep it consistent with our city processes, so.
That's correct.
Going
Or
forward.
at least my viewpoint, so, yeah.
All right, so we've finished with agenda item number 7. We'll move to agenda item number 8. Can I
Make
get
a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hepworth to adjourn and a second by Commissioner Reed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did I get 2 ayes online? I got
Yes, ma'am.
2 of them.
Aye.
Perfect. They were in sync. Okay, perfect. Motion carries. We are adjourned.